Child. And welcome everybody. Welcome to our Academy Information Night for Parents. This is actually not the first time we've done this, but we are bringing it back. I just saw a little typo that I want to correct, and it doesn't look good to me. So yeah, anyway, former English teacher, former history teacher I am. My name is Martell Price. I am the principal of Oakland Tech, and I want to thank you all for being here. Again, this is not our first time doing this, but we decided to bring this back for many reasons, some of which I'll share later. Ms. Williams, would you like to do a quick introduction, say hello as well?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm LaDonna Williams. I'm the 9th grade assistant principal, and just happy to be here to go over information and answer all your questions.
Man, let's be real. We're happy to be here on Zoom.
Yes.
Nah, again, thank you everybody for joining us. LaDonna, you have control of the slides, so I'm just going to say next if you don't mind, because you're presenting, yes.
Yeah.
We are holding this night as obviously to share some information around our upcoming Academy information, our Academy match process, and just everything that's about to ramp up this month and into February. And last year we didn't do this, and some parents made some valid points and said, look, my child is making a decision that impacts their high school experience for the next 3 years, and we should be informed at least. And I 100% agree. So we don't want to assume that people know about the academies. As a former teacher, we don't want to assume that anybody knows anything, right? It's part of the learning process. At any rate, so we're here, our purpose to ensure that parents are aware of the timeline and the process. We want to share pertinent information related to our 5 academies, skills learned, and the course sequence. And we also want to address any questions, comments, or concerns that you all may have. And this gives you that venue. In addition, though, if you have questions, I'm going to say, feel free to email myself or Ms. Williams, counselors. We're here all on this journey together, trying to keep the ship going forward and chugging along. At any rate, we are going to discuss our 5 academies, the pathway match timeline, and the match process. We'll have a little discussion about Paideia and its relationship to all this. And then we will take questions and answers. We should have you all out of here by 7:30. So with that being said, thank you all for being here. Let's get us to the next slide.
All right. So if you don't know who is in charge of 9th grade, more or less, it's pretty much me as the assistant principal, and Mr. Juman, our 9th grade counselor, who unfortunately was unable to be here tonight. But if you have questions about the academy process, feel free to email us both, and we should be able to get back to you with the answers that you are looking for.
Yeah.
All right. So, first of all, one question that we usually really get is like, hey, what's an academy and why are they important, right? So we have 5 academies at Oakland Tech. Each one of them has a different theme, and they basically prepare kids for the 10th through 12th grade and for college and careers and beyond. So one of the things I really like to share with parents is that academies give kids 21st century skills. They offer them soft skills. They give them opportunities to be able to do well in college, but they don't determine what their job is going to be, right? So we offer them special classes like CTE courses that maybe might be like dual enrollment classes that are aligned to the pathway. So for example, if you're in a health pathway, you might take like a biotech class, which would be a CTE class, or you could take, robotics in the computer science academy, right? And these are classes that are aligned to the CTE and aligned to some of our state guidelines, right? We offer students an opportunity to do internships, job shadows, field trips, get access to guest speakers and people in the field, right? We provide a smaller learning community where teacher teams work together with small cohorts. So you know how in the 9th grade, they have Neptune, Janus, and Sol as their house. And those are small learning communities with no more than 150 kids per cohort. Same concept here, but with the academy, it'll be from 10th through 12th grade.
Can I add some points very briefly? Each academy has about a cohort of 93, except for race policy and law, which is smaller. And another name for academies also mentioned in the district is pathways. So they're a little bit interchangeable, although the academies do have some different regulations. We have 4 academies, or 4 California Partnership Academies, and I'll discuss what they are as we move through. Go ahead.
Right. So go ahead, Mr. Price.
Our first academy, the Computer Academy, is what we actually is a part of the California Partnership of Academies, meaning it has to meet certain guidelines and whatnot and regulations around cohorting, around integration of curriculum and whatnot. At any rate, students who join this academy, look, a lot of coding, hands-on problem solving. Ms. Williams mentioned robotics, but we do work with technology organizations and take field trips to Bay Area tech companies. This academy is led by Mr. Anyador. Can we go to the next slide, which talks a little bit more about the Computer Academy? I thought this would actually be bigger, and I'm apologizing for that. But at any rate, each academy has a course sequence, and we will share these slides with you. But in the 10th grade, I'm getting old. Kids are really supposed to be cohorted into 4 different classes. Doesn't always happen, and we're working to make sure it happens. But you can see the course sequence. AP Computer Science Principles is the CTE course. In the 11th grade, they take an AP Science, Computer Science A course. And then in the 12th grade, they take a capstone course as well that's related to all of the learnings and builds upon the learnings that they had in the 10th and 11th grade. At any rate, like I said, each academy has a distinct mission and vision and works to make the college, the connections for students between college and career.
Okay, I'm gonna be going over the next academy, and so Mr. Price made me remember that I probably should put my glasses on if I'm gonna read that little small slide, so you're gonna see me put them on. So our engineering academy is one of our California Partnership Academies as well. It has to meet certain standards for integration, like Mr. Price explained. It's for hands-on learners who want to design and build technology. I heard some kids last week talking about how they built a chair, like an ergonomic chair in the engineering academy, that they've designed all kinds of really cool things like bridges where they have to see, they make them out of popsicle sticks or out of spaghetti noodles, and then they have to see how much pressure they can actually put on them. So that's from a physics standpoint. They learn valuable skills like computer aiding design, manufacturing, circuits, programming, and design thinking. And they engage in a range of projects, including airplanes, balsa wood structures, robotics, and more. And you don't need to have any math prerequisites to be in this academy. So again, they have to follow a course sequence.
I'm gonna make all these a little bit bigger. I'm gonna go edit all these and whatnot right now.
Okay, so have to follow a course sequence. So in 10th grade, you're going to take engineering technology, English 2, environmental science, or chemistry. In the 11th grade, the kids would take engineering technology 2, English 3, and physics. And in the 12th grade, their course English sequence is engineering design and AP science classes, right? But also we have a really cool architecture class that's being taught by one of our teachers from the Engineering Academy, who actually has a master's degree, and he is teaching through the Peralta colleges to be able to provide the skills that kids need to be able to take architecture, right? So that's one of the benefits of being in the academy, is being able to take some of these dual enrollment and CTE courses. So this is kind of some of what you get when you're in the engineering academy. Your work-based learning opportunities are things like computer aided design, presentation skills, learning how to work with wood, manufacturing, using those 3D printing machines and things like that that cut out small things, and you design it on the computer first, and then it cuts it out and makes it a life-size thing that you can use. Many of our academies do go on college visits. They have internship, externship opportunities, and industry tours. So that's some of what you would get from being in the engineering pathway.
Can you refresh the slides, Ms. Williams, and then they'll be a little larger, I believe, in the next ones.
Sure.
Thank you. We're waiting to go to the next slides.
I'm having a hard time doing that for some reason, Mr. Price. I don't know what I did wrong, but I can't get to it.
You can't get to, you're good, you're good. So the next slide is the Fashion Academy. Thank you. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Okay, go ahead.
The Fashion Academy, if for those that don't know, is located solely on the upper campus. So if your child is making a choice to go into the Fashion Academy, they're making a choice to walk up there every day between campuses. Again, a lot of responsibility, trust. Our kids do it, which is great. The one thing that we have done in the past or this year is we do give them a 5-minute grace period to get there a little late, because sometimes if they get stuck at that light, it happens. At any rate, just know that this is another choice that your child will be making, right? So they have to have that independence, and we have to have that, know that they have that responsibility making it back and forth. The Fashion Academy will be solely fashion, just to clarify any notions about it, because in the past it did have graphic arts and animation attached to it. It's going solely fashion. But within that, they'll still do illustration, garment construction, and learn elements of fashion design. They'll participate in exhibitions and shows, and they will develop a portfolio. I've seen the work that the kids have done over the past couple of years, and it's awesome. There are 3 fashion courses you can see: fashion fundamentals, fashion design and history, and fashion marketing. So next slide. This academy is run by Ms. Katita Johnson, and it has a fully formed team up there. You can see those teachers below. They all have a common prep period, just like our 9th grade teams. They all take field trips and college visits. So again, I hope you're hearing a theme here, right? That all of our academies are going to offer a similar experience. Now, yes, our kids may have certain interests, but like LaDonna said, or Miss Williams said, just because they're in that academy, it doesn't necessarily determine their career outcome or what job they have. I'd like to think that college will determine that as well. And other choices and other life choices that our students make. At any rate, this is fashion, upper campus. It was the largest academy at 124 students. Next year is going down to 93 students. One thing Ms. Williams may not have mentioned is engineering is actually going to have 93 spaces next year instead of 62 spaces. So thank you very much, Ms. Williams.
Okay. So the next academy that we're going to talk about is our Health Academy. It's for students interested in helping others, and specifically in health or health careers. You learn about clinical medicine, emergency medicine, and public health. Students will learn skills in first aid, CPR, health education, and basic clinical skills. So the Health Academy is one of our more popular academies on campus. I hear students talking about all the time about how much they enjoy being able to go and do the internships and externships with this pathway, because it gives them some real hands-on experience. And so it is one that students are extremely interested in. I want to talk again about our academy spreadsheet here, and just being able to kind of look at how each academy has its own course sequence. This academy is run by Kathleen Bailey and Patrick Friedman, who are both teachers. Patrick Friedman teaches history and Ms. Bailey teaches English here at Oakland Tech. They co-chair this academy and are basically trying to make sure the kids learn all the soft skills that they need if they're interested in careers in the healthcare field. So students in the 10th grade would take physiology, they take a physiology lab, English 2, and world history. In the 11th grade, they're taking biotech, right? Which is one of the CTE courses that they need to take for the integration because of the pathway. They also would take chemistry, English 3, and US history. And in the 12th grade, they're going to take biotech 3 and 4. And some of these classes are actually AP courses that they would take in 12th grade, English 4, and then government economics. So each pathway has some key experiences like college visits, health and fitness field trips, and an annual health fair, which the Health Academy puts on every year. Their work-based learning opportunities is active partnerships with the hospital. So for like example, students will do like a HEAL internship. And I know we have a partnership with Highland Hospital where many students go and they shadow doctors and nurses for a period of time. I think it's over the summer, and they learn about what doctors and nurses do, get a chance to assist with, you know, low-level situations, right? They're not actually performing any type of health processes, but they are, you know, being there to kind of assist, to learn, to support what's happening in the hospitals. So related careers that students could get involved in doesn't even have to be necessarily in health. It could be lab tech, right? Could be biotech, because we know in the Bay Area, biotech is a big deal, right? Because we're close and connected to so many hospitals. Could even be veterinary medicine. And so students are learning about all those different aspects of the health field.
Right on, thank you. And we went from our oldest or the first established academy at Oakland Tech, that being the Health Academy, to our newest academy, Race, Policy, and Law. Again, this one was born out of student interest. Prior to about 2015, we didn't have wall-to-wall academies, and we only had about 40 to 50% of the students in academies. And we asked the kids that weren't applying to the academies, what are you interested in? And they said ethnic studies or racial issues, policy, and law. So we combined it, and this is another California Partnership Academy under the legal studies banner. So again, what this means is we get extra funding for the state. And I know USD, extra funding from the state is always appreciated. At any rate, these are for students that are interested in working in social justice careers, in law, policy, and organization. They can always become teachers, you know, social justice. Anyway, they learn about current real issues related to race, racism, policy, and law. They have some hard, difficult discussions. And as a result, they actually ground themselves in restorative practices big time. Okay, so again, they'll do circles, right, to discuss any issues that may have come up during a difficult moment. But at the same time, they also do mock trials, and these awesome mock trials where an actual judge comes and sits in and listens to the kids do a case, right, and argue for their case. At any rate, next slide, please. We forgot, I feel like I'm not looking at the right slide. RPL, this information, RPL is led by former Teacher of the Year, currently TSA, Miss Wu. We're growing this team, right? Being that it's new, they've added a science teacher or a science and math teacher recently. They're a humanities-based academy, right? So again, they're looking for teachers that do STEM to support their kids. So again, they can have those team meetings where they're supporting kids, and also team meetings where they're talking about, hey, how can we integrate our curriculum together to support our kids? Make the connection between learning for our kids. Thank you, Ms. Williams. This is me. So one of the reasons, again, why we wanted to hold this meeting tonight was to share and make sure that folks were aware of this process and this timeline. This process actually started majorly today, or actually it started a while ago with preparations in the academies and meetings, preparations of the students, getting them ready for some presentations that started today. So today, I want to say Computer Academy presented. My daughter was telling me, and I can't recall the other, but we're doing this through English classes. And the reason why we do this through the English classes is because we expect, or the ninth grade teachers are gracious enough to offer their time to support students through this process as well. So again, 2 presentations happening per block, plus 1 on Monday. We will have a lunchtime Q&A, which Academy leads on Monday. This is big. We used to do this pre-pandemic years ago, where each Academy actually took a day in the library, and students, if they had questions, could come up. They'd meet the staff and ask questions of the students. They also have those opportunities also, though, during the presentations, right? Hey, what's it like? What's homework like? What's the best thing or funnest thing you've done so far, right? So at any rate, that's what's happening this weekend to Monday. What will then happen the following week, January 25th to 29th, is students will have access to the Pathway Match Form. All right. Now, again, I know parents want to help. If you want to help, that's fine. It does have an impact on students in the sense that, again, the choices they're making are for the next 3 years. But to that, again, it's all the academies are awesome and offer the same experiences, just with a different focus. That is due Monday, January 29th. We will communicate that with students, teachers will communicate, and we will communicate with families as well, just to make sure you're supporting your child. We do have a grace period where we follow up with some students that are missing, absences. We'll ask Ms. Williams, Mr. Juman, and our SSS, Mr. Bars. They'll do a full court press trying to pull kids in and saying, no, you have to answer these 3 questions, or at least 3 questions. Because again, we really want those at-promise kids to identify. That's generally who we have to go after to identify their choices. The following week, the pathway directors will actually take a day or 2 off to make these decisions. These are not things they take lightly. These are decisions that all impact each other. So they meet and they discuss their first choices. That's the easy part. I got all my first choices. It's like giving A's, easy. But then they have to discuss, negotiate their second and third choices. Hopefully not third choices, and we'll talk more about that shortly. Pathway placement letters will go out March 1st. We do ask parents to sign them, so look for that. And then if a student would like to request a transfer, does not get their first choice, we will talk more about this shortly. There is a request to transfer through counselors. Unfortunately, we cannot transfer. We're finding that we're running into issues with transferring students after the 11th grade. The California Partnership for Academies really frowns upon it and says, no, kids need to do a 2 or 3 year sequence ideally, and they can understand a 2 year sequence. They can't understand students jumping around though. I'm gonna let Ms. Williams speak to the next slide. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your patience.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that we do have a Pathway Academy change form, and I just took a screenshot of it just so you can see that there is an opportunity for students to say, hey, you know what? I actually got accepted to engineering, but I really think I'd rather be in race policy and law. Is there an opportunity for me to change? We would prefer the students do this in the spring because it's less work on the counselors, because they're already in the process of scheduling classes for the following year. If they wait until the beginning of the new year, they have to wait until the 20th day, because those slots automatically start going to the kids who are coming in from different schools. And they have to be able to have a placement for an academy as well, because we want all of our students to be in academies. So it's really important that if students decide, hey, I didn't get the one I wanted, but I'm thinking that maybe I might be interested in something else, that they do that in the spring before we go to break. Okay.
It does not guarantee any switch though, and it all is incumbent upon space and a discussion with pathway directors. Go ahead,
Right.
Ms. Go ahead, Ms.
Right, pathway directors have to be able to kind of decide, hey, I've got a slot here, this person wants to switch to engineering, and oh, this person wants to switch to computer, it's an equal swap, we're willing to do that. Or hey, we've got a little space, or no, we don't have any space, maybe we would recommend something else, maybe we'll pull the student in, talk to them about why they really want to be in our academy. There's all kinds of negotiations that need to happen, but it's better to happen before the school year ends than to wait until the beginning of the next school year. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the academy match process. And we used to call this the pathway application, but it became very, very like problematic because kids were looking at it like it was a competition. And it's really not. I want to let you know that all of the academies are great. Every last one of them. They all offer soft skills. They all offer 21st century skills. They all offer opportunities for internships, externships, field trips. There's no one that's better than the other, right? And they all have really great options for students. They don't determine your career pathway. If your parent is already an engineer and you want to be an engineer and you didn't get into the engineering academy, that doesn't mean you can't be an engineer when you get ready to go to college, right? It doesn't determine what your career pathway is going to look like for a lot of students. And I mean, we know this generation of kids will probably change jobs 20 times before they retire, right? Whereas for me, I'm in year 25. I can't go nowhere, right? There's no way I'm leaving my job at this particular point in my life, right? But this generation does do things a lot differently, right? So they may decide that they want a career in health. I mean, I wanted to be a lawyer when I was in college. And, here I am, right? An educator. So totally different career path. I might have wanted to be in race policy and law when I was in high school and then ended up doing something different. So saying all that just to say that we don't call it an application anymore. We call it a match process. It's what do you match with? What do you feel most connected with, right? And students will get their first, second, or third choice. The vast majority of students get their first and second choice. But some students will get their third choice. And even if they get it, that doesn't mean that they won't be successful. All of the academies are rigorous. They all have integrated curriculum. They all have an opportunity to participate in work-based learning opportunities, and students all benefit from personalized support. So after a student's 10th grade year, a pathway transfer request can be submitted, right? But again, like Mr. Price said, for our academies that are CPA, then they basically are frowned upon if they continue to try to jump around from academy to academy. So we want students to stick with it as much as they possibly can, just to be able to get the benefits of what it offers, not to make it about, hey, I want to have what I want, or I want to do what makes my parents happy, or I want to be where my friends are, or hey, I want to do this because I think it's going to make me have a great career. Not all of those things are guaranteed, right? So I just want to explain that we're really very serious about calling this a match process and not calling it an application, because they're not applying for anything. They're just matching with what they think is going to be a good experience for their high school career. Okay. Mr. Price, did you have anything you want to add?
I mean, you said it, and I'm sure folks may have some questions, but we do want to respect the choices of students, and that does mean something. But unfortunately, everybody cannot get their first choice, and this is why it is important that our academy directors look at the applications. They take the day and they read the applications and the responses, and they think about best fits as well. So to that, we are committed to, we want them to reflect the demographics of the entire school, but at the same time, we also want to really respect what our kids or what our students want as well. Yeah, thank you.
So we also want to talk a little bit about a program at our school called Paideia, and I'm sure some of you may be familiar with it if you've had other children at Oakland Tech, or if you've heard about it from friends or family, or are just familiar with the programs that are available at Oakland Tech. I'd like to give Mr. Douglas Stubblefield, who is one of the directors of the Paideia program, to speak a little bit about how it works and some of the things students can look forward to.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I won't take a lot of time. I really appreciate being invited to say something. Paideia, as many of you know, is a longstanding humanities program. It works in cooperation with, just as the slide shows, with most of the pathways with the computer, FATA, engineering, and to some extent, Health Academy at this point as well. It's a 3-year program that starts in 10th grade, just like the pathways. And we just want students to know that it's an option as well. A lot of our students, it's a big program. We have about 300 students. And a lot of the students choose to take their humanities courses, English and history, in the Paideia classes and still be very much a part of their pathway as well, all the way through the 3 years. So at this point, I think we've arranged to where we have the opportunity to have students that are currently in our program talk to 9th grade students in their bio classes next week. So we'll be able to answer their questions and kind of see where their interests are and where their concerns are. So I really appreciate those bio teachers that are allowing us to do that. For tonight, I think one thing that I want to really emphasize, we rely a lot on this match form. On the match form, there is a place where students can indicate if they're interested in Paideia. And generally, with this kind of 9th grade to 10th grade articulation, this is where we get our lists, our rosters. Counselors will then go through all of the match forms and they'll send us a list of everybody, or they'll actually give us a spreadsheet of everybody that indicated they were interested. And then within the program, we put those lists together, divide them up according to their humanities teachers, and then send each list to the humanities teachers and ask them to look over it, see if there's anybody that was overlooked that they might want to reach out to and kind of encourage to see if they want to take it, that sort of thing. And then we just kind of finalize the list. But what that means is this interest form that's coming really early, coming soon, is really important. It looks, we don't have an application process. We don't do interviews. In the Paideia program, because we just teach 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, we don't know any of these 9th grade students. So it's really just names at this point. So if your students are interested, please talk to them, talk it over. We'll give them information about what they can expect. And then that's it.
Okay, so Mr. Stubblefield, can you talk a little bit about the course description and what classes students need to take 10th, 11th, and 12th grade?
Sure. 10th grade, it's world history and English. I teach that with Mr. Barney. It's offered pretty much all through the day. The courses are blocked. That's one of the features of Paideia. So if you have me for world history, you're also going to have me for English, and we do a lot of mixing. So the curriculums kind of work with one another in that way. In terms of what we do in class, it is a pretty rigorous or enriched, they are rigorous or enriched courses. So students kind of need to want to be there because we're going to be asking them a lot. It's not a tremendous amount of homework, but the rigor's pretty high. They'll be getting a variety of readings. Some of them are college level readings, some of them are not, some of them are from the textbook. And the courses are designed around discussion. If we give them a difficult text, we then come into class and we work through it and break it down and, come up with all the examples and personal connections to whatever the ideas are. So it's meant to be challenging. There's homework every day. It's not a tremendous amount of homework in the 10th grade, but there is homework every day. Mostly it's that the work is evaluated. with the intention of getting all these students ready to not just get into college, but to really succeed in college and to feel like they are confident and prepared in college. In the 11th grade, there are options. There's a path that is a block that is AP US history with honors English, and then there is a block that is, or two blocks that are college prep history with honors English. And it's the same principle. It's discussion based. The two courses kind of work together, taught by the same teacher. And then in the 12th grade, it expands to 3 courses. So there's AP Government and Comparative Government, which is an honors course, and then there's AP Literature as well. And that's the thread that we have.
Okay, thank you so much. So I just want to thank Mr. Stubblefield for being here to talk a little bit about Paideia. Again, these slides will be made available to you and put on the website along with the recorded video. So you'll be able to read more about it. And like he said, the Paideia program will be going into biology classes next week to talk to the students about it before they complete their match forms. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, and we will have an opportunity for questions. And Mr. Stubblefield, if you don't mind sticking around, people might have questions about Paideia.
And to that point, I'm going to say, please put any questions. You're welcome to put questions in the chat as well. All right.
Ms. Price and we're going to take this. I just want to start by saying that our academy directors work really hard at placing students when it's time for them to complete their match forms, right? But not every student is going to get their first choice. But it's just a few little stats. So last year, 82% of all students were matched with their first choice. That's pretty good in terms of a scale and a ratio for the amount of students that we had. 13% of students were matched with their second choice, and only 5% of students were matched with their third choice. So that means that there was a lot of really skilled decision-making around who was going to be in which academy. And we didn't really have a lot of students who wanted to switch. So this just gives you an indication of how hard our academy directors work to really make sure that students are prioritized in the right way in terms of the academies that they get offered. But there is some things that we want you to be aware of. So Mr. Price is going to talk about what the process looked like last year when those 5% of students or those 13% of students said, hey, this is not what I wanted. How did we attempt to rectify or to explain how the process works?
Well, I was speaking to that, the 5%, most students, when they get their second choice, okay, I don't get, we haven't heard, hey, I got my second choice and I just picked that. The problem is really with the third choice, that some kids just are like, hey, I just put that down because we had to. And, I would say, don't do that. Really think about your third choice. That 5%, it happens. And it's been pretty much consistent during my time here at Oakland Tech and as long as I've been involved with this process. The one hope, and I'm wondering to see what the impact is this year, is again, how the expansion of engineering and its spaces impacts that a little bit. But anyway, in terms of how we deal with students that don't get their first choice, I most definitely want to hear from that student and look into it. But more than anything, I have to respect the decisions and the process that is made by the pathway leads. So to that, I'm not going to make any change or go to them. Again, there was a process. They sat and talked. They've thought about it. They've read responses. At any rate, so we just tell students, you can't drop this year. You have to take it to the 10th grade year and experience it. And from past experience, most students just settle in. The ones that want to switch are students that are just on they're wanting to switch for another reason. The deadline for submitting waitlist requests is, it says September 1st, 23rd there, but ideally folks should be seeing their counselor in April if they want to change. September 1st, 23rd is too late. I know that, and I changed it on the slides that I shared as well. So the slides that I shared have different dates. It's not a first come, first served process. It allows, in doing it in April, what happens is the pathway leads meet again, and they talk about, hey, which kids may be struggling, or which kids have really not been a good fit. And if there's room, they will, and if there's a match, then they'll make the switch. Or you say we're not doing that. Well, at any rate, our first, so basically know that students need to see their counselor regardless if they have an issue with their class. Let me see something real quick.
So one thing I just want to point out is that we really are asking students to make this decision in the springtime, right? And what I said is hey, if you wait until the first week of school, the chances of you getting into the academy you want and you filled out the form isn't really going to happen, right? It's very slim. So we really want to match all of our ninth graders at the end of the year, right? Before we go to summer break. So if you do not switch to a new academy, you will likely have to, if you switch to a new academy by September, right? Then you might have to do some of the makeup work, because we may have to wait until after the 20th day when enrollment is complete to actually be able to let you into that academy. So the best time to switch is the spring. I think that this information is not quite accurate. So Mr. Price and I are going to put up the new information on the slides, and it will have the most updated process for switching. I don't want to belabor this point, Mr. Price. I think it's best to move on. We can answer those questions.
Yeah, let's answer any questions that folks have right now.
So when we do this presentation with the students, we give them a little Kahoot game, which is a game they play on their cell phones that asks them to remember the answers to these questions. That's what we did with them in December. So we've done an assembly with students already. We have presentations happening this week. We have match forms happening the following week. We have presentations that are going to be happening with Paideia, and then students will go through the process of having the academy leads take a look at what they've written and to be able to help them be placed, right? So these are some of the things that we've done to really prepare the kids. So at this point in the presentation, we want to hear from you. Do you have any questions that you didn't get answered in the chat about the academies or the selection process, or how to contact your counselor? Questions? Raised hands would be great. Also on this slideshow, you'll see a video from a few years ago that talks about why kids love pathways. And there's an academy interest survey that we give our students. So lots of information here with regards to how we help students to really make the best and most informed decisions. What questions do you have? I'll take raised hands whenever you're ready. No questions?
Well, I do want to mention that I put the process for changing into the new slide. So if you refresh slide 20, it will kind of outline the process. Like I said, your student needs to see the counselor, right? And then the student will get a Pathway Academy change form from the counselor. The counselor will then share that with their current pathway lead. Current pathway lead will meet with the student parents around concerns. Hopefully there's resolution. If none, then they will possibly release them, release that information to be shared with the desired Pathway Academy director. Then that director makes a decision, and that gets shared with the counselor as well. And whether they're accepted or not. Counselor will work to see, hopefully, that the student's placement is where it is and where they want to be. And if they don't get where they want to be, then the counselor will have that discussion with the student as well.
Okay, so I do have some questions in the chat. And the first question asks, can students do health and Paideia? And the answer, I think, is no. Paideia, I'm sorry, the health department, the health academy offers the same kind of rigorous English and history classes that Paideia offers. And so most students will not be able to do health and Paideia.
Right on. I just want to share the slides real quick with a parent that came in late so they can see the slides and go through them again. This is for you, Miss Gibson. Slides shared.
Mr. Price, I'm gonna give you screen sharing access so you can put up the other slides, and that way we can do that. I'm gonna go ahead and start answering the questions in the chat at this particular point.
So another question I saw in the chat, what questions does a match form ask the students? You'll see that, Mr. Thompson, they're just questions that ask them to think about. They're not precise questions about why do you want to be in engineering. They're more abstract questions, or as far as, yeah, they're more abstract, just asking them about their thinking about certain things and concepts. Like I said, if you'd like to assist your child or look at the questions, this is why we are informing families that this is happening, so you can look them over with your child. As far as the next question, why is Paideia not allowed to be paired with race policy and law? Paideia is a humanities-based program, and race policy and law is a humanities-based academy. A student does not have enough room in their schedule to take all those humanities-based courses. And so a student must have their math and their science courses, and they must have other elective courses as well.
Okay, next question in the chat. This next year, Health Academy is allowing 12 students of their cohort to take. What are some examples of engineering internships? Engineering internships? Mr. Price, do you know?
Hold on one second. The question is, what is an example of what?
An engineering internship. What would an engineering internship look like?
I really wouldn't, they haven't, their internships are probably more established. I don't know who they have in. I honestly don't know. And I will ask Mr. Baena and Mr. Reddy about their partnerships. Again, they're a smaller team that we're actually trying to grow. It's a program, or the Engineering Academy is actually a pathway, right, that we are trying to grow. And so, yeah, I'll get that information. Don't have the.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Borgers, we don't have that information right now, but we'll make sure that we get it for you. You're welcome to email me or Mr. Juman, and we will respond back. The next question on the chat is, how much does your pathway depend on your schedule? Do you take courses with students outside of the pathway? Yeah, you can. Students do take electives, like, for example, if you're in the 10th grade, you will take PE. You may take a language course outside of the pathway. If you have taken, math or something like that at a community college, and you have room to fit in music because you've already fulfilled your requirement in some sense, you can do things like that. So students do take classes with students outside of the pathway. Sometimes those classes do intersect, where like maybe they may take a Paideia history course, or maybe they may take a science course in another pathway or something like that. But yeah, students do have the option to take classes outside the pathway. It just depends on what those classes are. Mr. Price, did you want to add to that?
No, ma'am, I'm a little occupied, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, Ms. Gibson, we are going to post these slides on our website, and we also videotaped this presentation. So you're welcome to watch it. Our 5 academies are health, race, policy and law, engineering, computer, and fashion. Do you find that student athletes are able to maintain grades in the engineering and Paideia program due to the rigorous material? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all students have to take one academy or the other, right? But I think students do rise to the occasion. The one thing about student athletes is that they have to be able to have a 2.0 to be able to play a sport in the first place. So you see students taking their academies really seriously. But again, the academy is a cohort. It's a smaller learning community. If student athletes are struggling to pass the classes, teachers need to be talking about that. They need to be creating interventions. They need to be trying to figure out what the student needs and to make it comfortable for them to pass the classes. The success of the pathways is really about the success of the teachers and the success of the cohort and how well they work together to really make sure that all the students master the standards and the information that they're being taught within the pathway. So I think, you know, in general, yeah, most of our students do rise to the occasion to maintain their grades in engineering and Paideia and many of the other programs. Mr. Stubblefield, I don't know if you wanted to speak to that.
I did leave something in the chat, but just generally, I do have a lot of very successful student athletes. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication and time management. And then when possible, depending on the sport as well, but there are some sports that pull students out of class where they are missing 2 or 3 times a week, a particular period. Frequently, it's best, you know, if it's possible, it's best if that's not one of the more rigorous, you know, classes. You know, when it is, they tend to be less successful. It's much more difficult. So it's just something to consider. It's done. Students are doing it a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
5.0 Akatunde Ahmad did it, right? That's good. Again, just moving through the questions. Thank you, Mr. Stubblefield, for that. I see a question about Fashion Academy and Paideia. If a student joins Paideia, I would encourage that student and you as a parent to check in with the teachers to work and see if they can be successful. But if a student would like to drop Paideia, they can. Each academy has an English teacher that is associated with them as well. Since the Fashion Academy is strictly fashion, which academy has graphic arts and design? The closest thing to any graphic arts and design, those would possibly be electives at this point. There is not an academy that holds those. As far as like design elements though, I know engineering does a lot of design products or design lessons and hands-on activities, but it's not necessarily graphic arts.
Okay, next question is, how does concurrent enrollment fit in? So concurrent enrollment is an opportunity for students to be able to take classes outside of the course sequence that we offer during the school year. But it's really supposed to be an opportunity to complement, not replace. So we're not asking students to be taking both, you know, an algebra class during the school year and then taking calculus BC in the community college. They need to be taking a class that that can complement their schedule, but not to replace classes that we already offer. So a lot of students do concurrent enrollment, but we recommend that they do it in the summertime, not during the school year when classes are offered through the school district that they need to take. Mr. Price, did I address that correctly?
I mean, again, to that, I would just say, like, just discuss any concurrent enrollment options with a counselor, and you said it right. We use them to supplement, but not supplant any of the courses that we offer. And students do have to meet a certain number of credit requirements per OUSD as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions that I didn't cover in the chat? You're welcome to just unmute yourself and ask those questions. We're trying to get you out of here by 7:30. We're willing to stay on for a few more minutes if there are particular burning questions that folks still have.
Thank you all for joining us. Again, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the input.
Oh, there goes
Ms.
the
Williams.
question in the chat. How much does I'm sorry. Oh, thank you for the presentation. Okay, just want to make sure I'm willing to stay on until 7:30 if there are additional questions. Again, feel free to email me, LaDonna Williams, the 9th grade assistant principal. Feel free to email Mr. Juman, our 9th grade counselor. And if you have additional questions for our academy leads, you can look that up also on the website and you may ask them. And we will post this on our website as well as the slides just to make sure that everyone has access to the information. So we want to thank you again for your time, and I'll just be on for the next couple of minutes if folks have questions.
I have one quick question just to follow up on the concurrent enrollment.
Mhm.
I was looking on the website. So can your student take any class at Peralta as long as it doesn't overlap with their academy classes, or are there only certain classes? Because I was seeing that there's like only certain classes that are offered.
So concurrent enrollment, like generally if we offer it at Oakland Tech, right, during the year, your child cannot go down to Laney and say, I'm going to take English 4 to replace my English 4 at Oakland Tech, right? However, if there's a course that we do not offer that your child is interested in, they can look into it for college credit or course credit, right? But it won't count towards their requirements, but we will give them the units per se, if it does not supplant a course. Generally, concurrent enrollment courses are taken during the summer, right? So if we can't offer a course during the summer, then a kid may take something to get ahead. But still, even then, if a kid has to take 30 units of math at Oakland Tech, right, that's still the requirement. And so we're not going to just let you blow through all your math courses and say, hey, I don't have to take math at Oakland Tech because I'm done with concurrent enrollment. But you can take it. This is, like I said, it's a discussion with counselors. I want to encourage you, if you're interested in concurrent enrollment, look at dual enrollment as an option. This is classes that are embedded within our schedule. They offer a grade point boost. They offer high school credit and college credit there as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah,
dual
that's
enrollment and
Dual
concurrent
enrollment
are
during the
separate.
day.
Mr. Stubblefield has put his email and information in the chat. And if you have any additional questions for him, he's asking that you email him as well to give any clarification around Paideia or the best match or fit for your particular student. Okay, it is 7:30, and if there are no additional questions, we're going to go ahead and end our presentation tonight. Again, we want to thank you all for coming. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. We're here to answer them. And we wish you a really great night and look forward to supporting your children through the match process.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Wow. Thank you, LaDonna. Thank you, Dr. Wolvers, for showing up as well and clarifying that. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Stubblefield.
Stubblefield.
Nice evening, all.
Thank you.